Talking real estate with Champions Real Estate Team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader at Champions Real Estate Team. Joining me today is Russ Williams. So every Wednesday we jump on here. I know we were trying to get on here a little bit earlier, but honestly, I had clients that they're buyers looking to buy a house, and the listing went live, and they only were doing showings from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. today. And I told them, I'm like, it's probably going to be sold by tomorrow, and they're doing showings tomorrow from like 9 to 7. And I was like, hey, we got to go out and take a look at it. And so they got out of work a little bit. And so we ran over there. So we were supposed to do the video just a little bit earlier, but trying to get our clients taken care of and go out and check out some houses. But so yeah, we jump on here, like I said, every Wednesday, give a rundown what's going on in the real estate market. But first off, we're going to do our quick tip of the week. So one of the things I take note of when I'm walking around houses with my clients, both buyers and sellers, is just general maintenance thing. And I think one of the biggest ones that I see that most people are just out of sight, out of mind, that they don't think about is backfilling your foundation. From the waterproofing experts that I've talked with, I'm not a waterproofing expert. So if you have any of those questions, get in touch with one of those professionals. But backfilling your foundation, basically what it means is putting dirt along your foundation enough so that the water goes away from your foundation. So a lot of times, I know at my first house, we had the vinyl siding, and the water would run down the siding, and then you get a little trough, with your foundation, and then you have a little trough here that the water would just drip down. And over time, that's naturally going to start settling, and it's going to go down that foundation wall, and water is going to find a way inside. Concrete's porous. You'll get some effervescence where you see some of that white kind of chalkiness on walls. That's water coming through, drying, and then those are the minerals that are on there. And so a lot of times when I'm walking around with my clients, and it's kind of funny, they're like, yep, we've seen enough houses, like, this one needs backfilling, this one needs backfilling, and so those are things that's going to help eliminate that moisture getting into your basement, crawl spaces, anything like that. So that's a quick tip. Make sure you're out there backfilling, just because we had that big storm last night, at least up at my house. And so even if you have landscaping, you need to pull, if you have a mat underneath it or plastic, you need to pull that plastic back, just because the mulch looks like it's going this way. Underneath, that dirt may be settling, and you'll start getting water back in there. So I know it's kind of a pain in the neck, but you got to pull all that rock out or mulch or that plastic back, pack the dirt down, and get it out away from there. That's going to hopefully eliminate a lot of those water issues. But if you are getting water in the basement, ultimately talk to a waterproofing professional out there. There's a bunch of them out there in the Omaha metro area. But that's one of those quick tips. I know it's probably a little lengthier than a quick tip, but anyways, it's a huge thing that I see in real estate that people just don't. You start seeing the tar line, the waterproofing line that they tar along the thing, and if you start seeing that, build that up, even on old houses and new houses, especially new houses. On new construction, you got to make sure you get that done probably at least 2 to 3 times a year. Sometimes your builder within that 1 year may come back and help you with that, but after that year, it's kind of you're on your own. So, but anyways, yeah, let's jump in. What's going on in the real estate market? Seeing a lot of activity out there. So as our graphic pops up here, we've had 408 new listings over the last 7 days that came active in the Omaha Lincoln MLS. We had 468 contracts written over the last 7 days. That's the largest number. Oh, you have to go back a long time. Crepes. Last June was 485. Yeah, so June of last year was when we were up in that 485. So basically, we hit the ground running this last week. Looking at my numbers here, so we had 384 last week, and obviously we only had 408. So I mean, weather was nice. Everyone was out there buying. I know I had a client that we wrote a contract on. Unfortunately, we were number 2, but we got a seat at the table. And I think that's what we talk about, with my clients, is if we can get a seat at the table, because I know this agent, they had 15 offers on the house. We at least had an opportunity to say yes or say no when it came down to it. So my clients, ultimately didn't feel comfortable where that house is probably going to be sold at. So it's like you gotta take that emotion out of it when you're buying a house. And I think that's truly what you have to look for in an agent and a lender, talking with Russ, and those buyers, making sure that they're in communication with that lender of where they're comfortable on those payments, and if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, we'll find another one. But that's what we're seeing is there's the appraisal gaps, in that 200 to 300 price point, $15,000 to $10,000 appraisal gaps that we're seeing, in the last couple contracts and transactions that I've been with, on a $250,000 house. That's a lot of expendable income or expendable cash that you have on top of your down payment. So it's interesting to see how we can kind of structure these offers, and my goal, like I said, is to get our client a seat at the table. They can say yes or no. They get the house. Awesome. If it's, not comfortable for them, then they at least have a chance to say no, rather than me just getting, one of those 14 text messages from the agent saying, hey, appreciate your offer. Unfortunately went to, we sold it to somebody else, but we got at least a chance to say no on that one. So we had 368 happy new homeowners this last week, but yeah. So let's take a look at 30,000 foot view. Share the other graphic that we go through every week. So we had 1,946 active listings in the Omaha Lincoln MLS. I did take out the no-show listings. So that's basically houses that are on the market, but not actively on the market. Essentially, they're on the MLS. Agents can see them, but they're not out there on the third-party websites, our Berkshire Hathaway site or any like the realtor.coms or things like that. So taking into account just Omaha Metro, we have 1,146 in the Douglas-Sarpy County area. Number of homes in the existing market in the Douglas-Sarpy is 364. We've kind of been hovering right around that 350, 360 for the last couple of weeks. The number that's dropping right now is that new construction. We were up above 800 a couple of weeks ago. So I think some of those people that are out starting to look now and have looked maybe the last couple of weeks and haven't seen anything in that 400 to 500, 300 price point are like, hey, there's some spec homes out there that are kind of getting gobbled up out there from the new construction side. So we've kind of see a drop in that. So we've seen our new contracts go up, but our existing homes haven't really dropped too much on there. Our month of inventory went down a little bit because obviously a lot of, we had 468 houses go off the market this last week. Our average sold price is kind of hovering right around that 319. Didn't change from the week prior. So like I said, the market's picking up out there. What we're seeing. Obviously, we saw a lot of new contracts get written or get accepted this last week. We only had 400 houses go on the market. I think that's going to, kind of be the trend, moving forward. Obviously, we're getting in the summer, late spring, summer months here. Historically, we would see, we had, graduation time frame. Market slows down a little bit. So I think we talked about this last week. Jump in. If you're one of those buyers, it's kind of, I think it's going to be tough. I've seen it in my 15 years. We see it kind of slow down around graduation time. Showings would drop down a little bit because people, I don't want to show my house. I don't want to put my house on the market, or I got, we're busy on the weekends. Like today, hey, that's showing they're only doing showings from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We got to go see it. You those buyers that are going to want to go buy it. And the agent told me, she's like, hey, I have 11 showings set up already. And I called her at noon. And then, from basically that 2 hours, she had 11 showings today already, at least at that time. I'm sure she probably has more. The showings are stopping in 2 minutes, but out of those 11, if you can be one of those people, give them a good strong offer out the gate, you get a seat at the table, from that standpoint. So I guess let's jump in with Russ and touch base on what the money side of it's doing out there. So you're on mute still, Russ. Just unclick your button and let's hear what you got to say.
It's kind of interesting. Anytime that there's not news, the market seems to get a little bit jittery. And in the absence of news this week, we've seen mortgage rates tick up just a little bit. And when I say no news, we're not talking about any. We're talking about there not being many economic reports that might rattle things a little bit. But we did hear from St. Louis Federal Reserve Chair, Governor James Bullard, who typically is an outlier. Typically is an extreme. He wants to raise 3 more times in the short-term rate. There's just no way that's going to happen, folks. But that's the only news that the markets heard this week, and as a result, we saw rates move up a little bit. But as we move towards the end of the month, the Fed's favorite measure of inflation, which is called the Personal Consumption Expenditures Report, is expected to be a little bit of an improvement from what it was last month, which means inflation is continuing to show signs of improvement. So as we see inflation continue to improve, mortgage rates will improve as well. We're also seeing, and I'm sure many of you that are shopping for homes are hearing this, that there's still some funds out there, especially for first-time home buyers. Most of those are based upon income. Some of them have a geography component to them if you buy in a certain part of town, but most of them are related to income. So be sure if you're a first-time home buyer to ask if there are any first-time home buyer funds that are available to you. And the reason for that, just as Mark had mentioned earlier, appraisal gap is a common thing right now. With the tremendous demand out there and the very limited supply of inventory, especially at the lower price points, first-time home buyers can sometimes be at a disadvantage if they don't have a lot of cash to cover that appraisal gap. Certainly, they've got enough to cover their own down payment. They've got enough to cover their own closing costs, perhaps. but covering an appraisal gap can be a bit of a challenge. And a lot of those first-time home buyer funds can be used for that. So be sure to ask questions of your lender.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that is a variable that that's just going to be kind of a norm right now in our market. It was a norm last year, but we didn't see it as much in these first-time home buyer price point. Cause like you said, first-time home buyers, they're getting they're saving up for their down payment and closing costs. And now they're throwing a completely another variable into it of, hey, people are paying $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on appraisal gaps for $250,000, $220,000 houses. So I mean, it's like if you have that, tap in all the resources that you have, and Russ is great with that. And he's a great resource to know what pots that you can kind of pull from and where you can kind of fall in. That's why getting in touch with the lender early and getting a game plan of, hey, what do we have available to us, and then how can we structure an offer, to be competitive out there, and do we feel comfortable with that? And that's just the conversations I have with my clients is, hey, you may have X in savings, or you may have this in your income, and, what's your emergency fund, in your savings account? Don't deplete all of that, because, you buy a house, things happen, and when you don't expect it. So you gotta be mindful of what, being, educated and coached through that process, and not just get, jittery and excited and emotional about buying a house and just wanting to get into it. You need to really take a look at the big picture of it and make sure it makes sense for you. Because, if it doesn't make sense, then don't do it. You got to put your head on the pillow at night. If you feel comfortable with it, then great. Awesome. Let's go for it. Like I've said before, do you want to buy the house or put in an offer? There's houses that you go out there and you want to buy it, then let's go buy it. Let's pull out all the stops, push all the chips in the middle, within a reasonable, and a mindful thinking about it, or you're like, hey, if I get this house at this price, it's going to be a great house, but I don't think I need to go gangbusters on it. Let someone else go gangbusters on it, and right. So there's different mindsets of how to do that, and as an agent, that's my goal, is to help coach you and train you and educate you through that process of, is this one, and sometimes I've worked with my clients long enough, seen enough houses with them that you can kind of get a sense as an agent, this is one that they're really going to like. Okay, how can we structure it? Talk to the agent beforehand. Because if agents, and I teach real estate continuing education classes, so I teach agents all over the state. And a lot of times some of those agents that I'm working with that have, it literally comes down to it that, hey, both these offers are fairly identical, and, knowing an agent may send you, may just push you over that threshold to get the house. So, but, and even, lenders too, because Russ teaches the real estate finance class, the Results Coaching School of Real Estate. So new agents that are taking those financing classes are going with Russ. And if they're out there in the marketplace and, I happen to write a contract on that house of a newer agent or agents that's been in the business for a couple of years. Oh, hey, I know Russ. I know Mark. Okay, great. Hey, they're great to work with, and you might just get the house that way, just because the offers may be a flip of a coin when you got 15 offers and 3 of them are identical, at that high end. Great. Let's rock it out. Let's get it done, and everyone's happy and move forward. So awesome. Well, I don't got anything else. You got anything else you wanted to add? I think,
watch the weather. It's going to be an interesting week. We need the rain, but, and that will, probably rain down a whole bunch of buyers too. So
yeah, well, hey, those
sellers, we need your inventory. List your homes. We need them.
All right. Make sure you backfill so you don't got water issues in your base. Cause I think that's a lot of it too, is that, I just put mulch around my house and I checked, and it's the snow pack, as we've had it, and we're in that spring, and, it starts going that way, and it's just go get some fill dirt or have a landscaper come and do it for you. It's not really a hard thing to do, but, anyways, yeah, appreciate it. And, thank you guys for listening, like, subscribe, comment, love to hear from you. But once again, thank you again for your time, and appreciate it. And we will talk to everybody next week.